What is going on, guys? Naeem Al-Abeidi here. I hope you're all enjoying your day today. I'm super excited to talk about Ripple's death cross that's forming right now and why we may see some downside for Ripple over the next couple of days. And that's exactly why we're seeing articles like this online. As you can see, Ripple price falls and drops below Ethereum, why Ripple is demonstrating weakness. And we're also going to be covering some Bitcoin and Ethereum technical analysis, along with talking about Bitcoin ETFs and some positive news for Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and dive right into this technical analysis for Ripple, and then we'll take some audience questions. I see we already have some amazing people online. We have Sean Navins in the house. Let's go ahead and first and foremost take a look at Ripple's technical analysis and talk about this death cross that's forming and what this means for Ripple in the long term. As you can see, we're currently in this bear flag. We've got a descending resistance level. We've got a descending support level. The next major support level is right around that 7,580 Satoshi mark. And that's really where I'd expect us to find some support if we were to break down to the downside. Now, the death cross is extremely important to watch here, and that's when a lower moving average, as you can see this red line here, which is the 50-day moving average, crosses below a higher moving average, which right now we're looking at this 100-day moving average. And this is a very, very bearish sign. It's a universal technical indicator. If you guys are a part of our Discord group, we have a ton of premium education there. By the way, we've had some amazing alerts over the past couple of days. Let me pull this up here for you guys. So check out these members here. Wow, Naeem's rep BTC hit right on target. Rep hit right on target. This was our Augur call. You can see this is exactly when we posted this alert, and this was the results of the alert. 10% gain in about 2 days. And we've had some amazing Forex alerts as well. If you guys are not part of our Discord group, the link is in the description below or below me. I would highly recommend getting in there. Check out all of these amazing results. Here's another one as well. We called US 30 today, and we had a huge profit there as well. So definitely go to the link in the description if you guys haven't already. But we're watching a lot of different coins, and Ripple is one of the coins, in my opinion, that we're most likely going to see some downside with over the next few days. And I wouldn't be surprised for us to consolidate around this support level of 3,700 just because of the fact that we've seen this amazing run up during Bitcoin's crash here over the last few months. And so Ripple's already seen the upside. Ripple has seen quite the exuberance. If we were to actually take a look at how much of a percentage increase we've seen here since September of 2018, you can see we've already been almost 187% up at one point here. Obviously, this was a huge wicks, but if we were to look at where we're at right now, we're still over 100% up since September of 2018. And so knowing that we've seen such amazing price movements here for Ripple, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a surprise for us to break down due to this death cross form here. You can see the last time we formed a death cross right over here where the 50-day crossed right below that 100-day moving average, we saw a huge decline. And so I'd be very careful if you guys are trading XRP or holding that. And we're also going to take a look at the RSI here. You can see we're also seeing some resistance here with the RSI along 40. And if you guys know how to utilize the RSI, this is a known resistance level, and anything below 40 is extremely bearish. So I wouldn't be surprised for our RSI to double bottom here under 30 before seeing any further upside. And that would correlate with the technical analysis that we have here. And to go ahead and transition into Bitcoin's technical analysis, I want to go ahead and cover what we're seeing here, and then we'll go into Ethereum, because Ethereum is showing some exciting movements with a golden cross recently formed. That's the opposite of what you saw with Ripple with the death cross, and that's when the 50-day moving average is crossing above the 100-day moving average. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but first, let's take a look at what's happening here with Bitcoin's pennant. We've got this descending resistance, this ascending support. Once again, this ascending support, I'm looking for that third point of contact right now. If you guys have been keeping up with our live streams, you guys know exactly what we're talking about. By the way, if you guys haven't already liked the video, make sure to like the video. I see we're at 7 likes and 61 viewers. Come on, guys. We can do a lot better than that. I'm starting to do these daily live streams, so it really means a lot to have some support. So make sure to like the video if you guys haven't already. But as you can see, this ascending support level and what we've been talking about over the past few live streams is the fact that we're looking for that third point of contact. We have not yet seen that. You can see we're starting to see some moderate volume here. I'm pretty sure that you guys can't see that right now. Let me pull this up a little bit. So you can see here this moderate volume for Bitcoin, that, not necessarily seeing, an increase in just buyer or just seller volume, but it's just a mixture of both. And so I'm really neutral right now with Bitcoin. Really, if you were to ask me what is my best assumption of where Bitcoin is going to be headed, I would say I wouldn't be surprised for us to at least go ahead and test that ascending support once again, hit that third point before breaking out of this formation. Because if you guys know how patterns work, patterns typically take about 75% of the structure to fulfill before the pattern actually goes and actually initiates a breakout. And so we have not yet hit 75% in my opinion. I think we have a little bit more of a ways to go. But what we do know is we're most likely going to see something happen soon, because we have that 50-day moving average now converging with that EMA. That white line is the exponential moving average. You can see price levels are consolidating, and now we're seeing these two averages converge. And so I wouldn't be surprised for that squeeze to cause a breakout. Now, if we were to break out to the upside, we obviously have the strong resistance here right around that 4,200 level. And so I wouldn't be surprised for us to go above that 50-day moving average, finally break out of this pennant, and then hit that target of 4,200 before seeing any further downside to any sort of support, which would be right around that 3,900 area for support. And so that's really what I'm watching for Bitcoin. Not as exciting, not as much movement, but here with Ethereum, we have a lot more amazing movements. I see we have everyone online right now. Asim, Michael, Sean, Adonai, Great Days, Edward, Peter. Michael says, hey, mate. Sean says, like a sniper. I love it. Peter says, thanks for your work, man. Thank you guys for the support. Once again, you guys have had some amazing success stories. If we pull up this once again, you can see with our trade signals, our members are all making money in our Discord. I'm super excited to see more of you guys with these type of testimonials. And we had these amazing calls right on target. These entry, these targets, these stop losses, we're doing all the work for you guys. So if you guys are not in our Discord, I'm there every single day. That's why I talk about it so much. And I'm super excited to help more and more of you guys. We've already got 25,000 amazing members there, 4,000 paid members for our premium signals. And so it's just exciting to grow that and have more of you guys taking advantage of this amazing volatility, this amazing time with this market. So looking with Ethereum, looking here at the technical analysis, you can see we're also forming this ascending support level. But we've got this really strong resistance level here that we don't necessarily see with Bitcoin. And this resistance is right around that 3.43 million Satoshi mark. And what's interesting about this ascending triangle, and if you guys are not educated by all of these patterns that I'm talking about, in our Discord, if you actually go down to tools, into trading patterns, all of these patterns are actually laid out here for you guys to look at and understand what they mean. But you can see we've got this descending triangle forming here. You've got this this ascending triangle with an ascending support and a neutral resistance. And so right now we're testing that resistance level. We're testing that 50-day moving average. We're above the EMA. And what's really cool about this that we don't really see with Ethereum, with Bitcoin's technical analysis, is the fact that yes, we have these converging lines, but we're also in this uptrend, right? And so we've got this minor uptrend forming here. So if we were to see this squeeze, which we are seeing it squeeze, I really wouldn't be surprised for us to see some upside here and possibly break out towards that 4.17 million Satoshi mark. And Ethereum has seen quite the downside over the past few weeks, and it wasn't really performing that well with Bitcoin like we saw with Ripple. So it really wouldn't be surprising for me. It makes sense for us to see this happen, especially with this increase in buyer volume. You can see we're seeing a lot more green now. And then if we were to pull up this histogram, the difference between the histogram that we see here with Bitcoin and what we see here with Ethereum is the histogram here. You can see we're starting to see a decline, right? This trend is declining. But when we look at Ethereum, we're seeing this incline, right? It's actually going up. And so this curve upwards means we can most likely see even more of a curvature upwards. And that could really take this fast length right back up to these higher MACD levels, and that would go ahead and cause that breakout to go ahead and possibly hit this target that we have set here. So the golden cross, in combination with the increase in buyer volume, in combination with the increase in MACD, in combination with this major resistance and ascending triangle, leads me to believe that we will most likely see some upside here for Ethereum quite soon. John R says he's quite legit. RV says, how much is the Discord? The The Discord is half price right now because we don't have our course out. So I highly recommend you guys go in there. I think it's like $200 something a month. We really we make the prices all based upon the overhead that it takes to have our analysts look through all of these coins on a daily basis for you guys and do all the hard work and set up the targets, set up the plays. And so, at the end of the day, we want to provide value and provide the best content and information to you guys. And that's why I'm super, super fond of all the testimonials that you guys send me. So make sure to continue sending those testimonials if you guys are part of our premium group. John R says he's quite legit. We already read that. Seth says, see you soon, Naeem. Are you coming to our mastermind? That would be awesome. We have a mastermind coming up. So let's go ahead and look at some headlines here alongside with what we're talking about. So we already looked at that initial headline of Ripple possibly seeing some downside, but here you can see it says it's virtually certain Bitcoin ETF will be approved. So I want to talk a little bit about some fundamentals here in the market. You can see with this, it says the SEC has several legitimate, thoughtful concerns that the industry has to overcome, but I'm confident they will. Eventually, we will see a Bitcoin ETF, and it's at that stage that I will be much more comfortable recommending that ordinary investors participate. And so it's something that we've talked about in this channel for so long. And if you look at this tweet that we saw here from an influential individual here on Twitter, you can see it says the institutions aren't coming, they're already here. And that's a really interesting statement. And the reason I say that is something that we talked about in one of our last live streams is we saw this huge spike in volume, right? But after that huge spike, we didn't necessarily see any continued volume come in like we saw here, right? Over here, we saw that spike, and then it just started spiking even further up. But here we didn't. So this we actually assumed was an institutional play a couple live streams ago, and now we're seeing this type of verification on Twitter with some of these other, thought leaders in this market. And so what could be happening right now is institutional money is starting to possibly come into this market. And if we look at this headline, it confirms here, it says first U.S. public pensions invest in $40 million cryptocurrency fund. A brace of public pension funds is backing a $40 million venture capital fund, which focuses on cryptocurrency investments. This development marks the first ever involvement of U.S. pension funds in the virtual currency investment space. Why is that important? Well, what have we been talking about over the past few months, if not the past year, right? It's when is this market going to mature? When are we going to see institutional money come in? And we're starting to see that come, especially with the confidence that we have that Bitcoin ETFs are going to be approved, alongside with this type of news with pensions starting to invest in cryptocurrency. We're starting to see exactly what we saw in 2000 with the dot-com bubble, where nobody wanted to invest in the bubble after it popped, but then we started to see more and more maturity in people's knowledge and competence of the dot-com era, which eventually transitioned into these major behemoth companies like Facebook, Google, and so forth. And so I'm seeing the same exact development here with cryptocurrencies. I wouldn't be surprised for us to continue seeing some upward momentum as we have now finally consolidated between that $3,000 and $4,000 level here with Bitcoin. This could very much have been the bottom, and we could very much of expect some higher levels in this ascending support line to continue on the way up. Seth says valid info. Thank you so much. Mike says I've been a member since the start of the bear market. It's funny. I think all of our members, or at least with the trade calls we've been posting, I mean, the bear market was an amazing time for all of our premium members. The bear market doesn't have to be boring. There's opportunities every single day. That's why we're able to look at these technical indicators with these altcoins and predict these breakouts to the upside. And at the end of the day, what do you want to do in this market? You have to ask yourself that question. Do you want to trade this market and make money? Do you just want to look into long-term investing? In my opinion, it's not the time to invest long-term, especially after we saw this crash. Now we just need to see this market recover. We need to see more confidence in this market. And if we were to pull up daily transaction volume here for Bitcoin, it's something that we've been keeping track of here on our live streams. You can obviously see here the fundamentals are showing Bitcoin transactions are at all-time highs. We're maintaining that 300,000 transaction a day level. we're reaching the same highs that we saw with transactions per day that we saw when Bitcoin hit $20,000. And then when you look at the overall cryptocurrency market, we're not going below that $100 billion market cap. It looks like we've finally found some safe ground, right? You can see Ethereum and Ripple competing for that spot number 2, both at $12 billion in market cap. This is something we've also been watching. But overall, we're seeing a positive day for the majority of these cryptocurrencies. A lot of them are between 1% and 5% up right now. Any of them really making any crazy moves? Nano at 12%. It looks like Nano is making some crazy moves here, 12% in the last 24 hours. But other than that, we're seeing a little bit of a consolidation phase here, and that's why we've been focused a lot on Forex signals in our premium group. So let's take some questions from our live audience before we wrap up this live stream. If you guys haven't already liked the video, make sure to like the video at 30 likes and over 100 people watching. Come on, guys, make it happen. Support the stream. And Shaw says, is BNB pumping? Let's pull up BNB. We pulled up BNB yesterday, and we saw some really interesting price levels. And we talked about this resistance level. And as you can see, it's doing exactly what we talked about yesterday. Binance starting to find resistance along that major resistance of around 26,000 Satoshis. And so if we were to remove these drawing tools and go ahead and redraw this, you can see this is the resistance level that we've been watching, and we're most likely going to see that downside soon. You know, one of you in Discord asked to check the BTT chart the other day, and I showed this in the last live stream, and it was a very similar move where we were approaching that resistance. But what we talked about in our last live stream is this is most likely going to form a cup and handle pattern. If you guys don't know what a cup and handle is, it's where we find an initial breakout, we form the cup formation, find resistance where we initially found resistance, to then go ahead and consolidate down about 30% to where that handle will eventually form before testing that resistance once again. And if you guys know my standpoint on the Binance coin, I love the BNB coin. I love the fundamentals of it. And so for us to go ahead and break this resistance level, which is pretty much all-time highs right now when we look at Satoshi value, I really wouldn't be surprised for that to happen. You can see it's happened multiple times in the past. Binance is one of the most profitable cryptocurrency companies out there. And what I'll tell you is, just from having the experience of advising, 7, 8, 9 blockchain companies myself, everyone is envious of Binance because they're the ones making billions of dollars in this market in comparison to the majority of these other companies, which are actually spending funds trying to create more exposure, trying to create, a company from scratch. Binance is like, hey, we're just enjoying all of you guys trading these damn cryptocurrencies, right? So we're cool with it. And so they're making tons of, money in that way. But you can see breakout here, breakout to the upside. We saw a little bit of a downward trend. We saw a correction down to that 100-day moving average, very healthy. But then you can see this 50-day moving average started coming close, didn't form the death cross, continued to go upwards. So we saw another breakout to the upside. We saw this death cross form, price dropped, price continued to drop. But then you can see here, 50-day moving average has finally went above that 100-day moving average. And so now we have this golden cross that formed, that initiated this run up, and now we're finding resistance at that known resistance and that peak level. So I wouldn't be shorting the Binance coin at all because we know that this has extreme fundamental value, and I'm extremely long on the BNB coin long term. I think we posted a video on this channel almost a year ago when Binance was like around these levels, and I talked about how this was going to be my top performing coin for 2018, and it really did perform, and that's all I could say about that. It's something we've been watching, and it's something we've talked about so many times before. And if you guys weren't paying attention to yesterday's live stream, one coin that could eventually turn into the Binance coin when it comes to fundamentals is the Gemini dollar. If you guys don't know, the Gemini dollar is this stable currency that Gemini is using right now. And so I'm very much expecting this market cap to start to increase. The only issue is obviously we've got this here as a stable currency, so it's not necessarily going to, be a good place to expect, a rise in value. But at the end of the day, I'm definitely expecting this market cap to start to increase a lot more because Gemini is more focused on institutional investors versus Binance, which is more focused on consumer investing. But, BNB, the Binance the CEO, CZ, did announce a couple months ago that they were going to be leaning towards institutional investors as well. So, looking at the BNB technical analysis, what I would be doing if you guys watched our video yesterday is wait for this cup formation to complete, wait for that handle to complete, go ahead and buy at that support level, which is right around that 22,816 mark. That's where we found support here. And for that handle to go below that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate. So I think the handle would really form around this level before breaking out to the upside. And then what you want to do is play it in two ways. You can either buy the support here of the handle, or you can buy the breakout at the resistance right above the resistance. And so that's how I would play that. Hopefully that has helped out a little bit. Let's see if we have any other questions here. The game says, can FUD or FOMO trump technical analysis? How does this affect traders? Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question here from YouTube. What I'll tell you right now, the game is, at the end of the day, fundamentals could always trump technicals, but technicals are extremely powerful. And that's why this market is so, I would say, sensitive. It's because you've got all of these new companies, and so there's all these new fundamental, updates that come out. But at the end of the day, does it actually bring intrinsic value? And so I wouldn't look at news more than I would look at intrinsic value. And what brings intrinsic value? Well, there's a lot of different things that bring intrinsic value. One of them could be the team, right? Look at the team that's running the coin. I like Ripple because it has a lot of intrinsic value in the fact that they're making so many different partnerships with different banks, and whether those banks are using the XRapid system or not, they've now put their foot in the door, and now they have the opportunity to introduce the XRapid system to these clients of theirs, these institutions, these banks, which the XRapid system is what we want to be used if we are investing in Ripple, because that's what actually uses the XRP token. It's not just Ripple partnering with these companies, it's actually using the XRapid system. And so, that is a very fundamental, it's a fundamentally strong indicator for the long-term value of Ripple, right? That's why we look at the same exact thing here with the BNB coin. It's a strong coin fundamentally because there's so many users on Binance using it. That's why the BTT token is something that we're watching as well now. This is also a token I'm going to be very optimistic for here in 2019. And you can see we don't have that much price price analysis that we can do here because it's such a new coin. But if you guys know what BitTorrent is, it's a torrent download platform where they've already got millions of users, and these users have been seeding downloads for years and years and years, if not decades, and they were never rewarded for it. But now they've implemented this reward system with the BTT token, and so they're not only just creating a concept, they're attaching the digital currency to an already existing user platform with users that are active, and that's where we'll find coins that will skyrocket to the moon in the long term. That's where you'll find the best investments in this market. Mike says, very smart. That's why we should all be accumulating. Mike says, fundamentals are in a bull market. Price will follow with time. Mike says, Binance also has a decentralized exchange coming out. Yeah, Binance is going to stay in the lead, in my opinion. I mean, I don't see many other coins taking over, what Binance has been able to do in this market. I mean, Binance is definitely one of the behemoths, and we'll start to see other exchanges come, as time progresses here. Sean says, been watching since before the green screen in the beginning. Oh, I hope you're not having to dye your hair or grow beards for likes anymore. No, hopefully not. I mean, have we hit 100 likes here on this video? I might have to grow a beard. I'm just kidding. I might have to get a tattoo on my forehead if we don't hit 100 likes in this video. I'm just kidding. If we hit 100 likes, I'll get a tattoo on my forehead if it's before the end of this live stream. How about that? But it'll be a temporary tattoo, but I'll keep it for 2 weeks. How about that? I don't want to say something that I can't commit to, right? I bet you the likes are soaring through the roof right now. Look at that. 38 now. Let's refresh. The likes are probably going to go up. Let's see here. What are we at? 38. Now we're at 37. It's going down. People don't want a tattoo on my forehead. Quinn says, what would be a good entry point for XRP as it's coming down a bit? Good question. So we talked about XRP. Let's look at possible entry point here for XRP. So looking at the technical analysis, let's see if we can pull up the chart that I had up here. I think that was the Binance chart here. So when we're looking at this technical analysis, what I could tell you is, obviously, we're in this descending pattern here. We're most likely to see that breakdown to the downside, and that support level that we were talking about here is right around this level, right over here. And so I would assume for us to start to head down towards that 7,632 Satoshi mark, and that support level, in my opinion, would be the best entry point for Ripple. And that's only if this death cross causes us to start breaking down. And what I would do is set up a stop loss very close there, because at the end of the day, if we were to break down through these levels, then our next major support would really be kind of unknown, right? Because you've got this support level here that's pretty much tapped and have had a point of contact here once, twice, 3 times. This support level has had a point of contact here twice. And so you've got these 2 major support lines here below that. And so the breakdown could be quite brutal if it were to be, but I don't think we'll see a breakdown like that. I don't think we'll get down to these levels. One thing we can do here is pull up the Fibonacci retracement to get a little bit of a better accurate analysis here in regards to price levels and potential future levels. And if we were to take this Fibonacci retracement, you can see we've went ahead and let's go ahead and try to take it up to maybe one of these more consistent resistance levels. When you're using the Fibonacci retracement, you want to see where you can find some sort of correlation within support and resistance and the Fibonacci retracement itself. And so looking at this right now, I would say if we were to assume, let's go ahead and actually put this Fib retracement all the way up to that top of that triangle. Really, if we were to go ahead and see a 0.5 retracement, see that 0.5 here is right along this support line. And so I wouldn't be surprised for us to get around these levels. I don't expect too much of a breakdown. I would say from here, hopefully this moving average can start to curve back up and then form a golden cross to then go ahead and see that curvature right back up to higher price levels. So that's what I would expect with Ripple based upon the fundamentals and the technicals of what we've seen here. So let's go ahead and take a couple more questions here before we wrap up this stream. But once again, I am going to be on our Discord posting all of our trades and talking to all of our awesome people there. Let's see. Quinn says, what would be a good entry point? Oh, we already read that. JRM says, BTT looks like what ETN was. Oh, man. Electronium. Quinberry says, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. You're very welcome. Marco says, XRP, the 200 moving average will act as a magnet. Interesting. We did not necessarily take into account the 200-day moving average when we looked at XRP. And the reason I didn't was because that 50-day was crossing over with that EMA, and so that was more important to me than that 100-day moving average. But you can see the 100-day moving average. Let's go ahead and see where we've got that 100-day moving average. It's right down here, and so that's a very interesting point. Let's go ahead and take a look at that 100-day moving average here. Let's go ahead and, I'm sorry, the 200-day moving average. So interesting comment, Marcos. So for that 200-day moving average, I mean, looking at where that's positioned here, especially with this curvature up, it is actually right along that support level that we're talking about. So yes, so that's even more of a confirmation of what I just said. So that 7,600 Satoshi level is definitely my target for the downside. And the reason I say that is because just like you said, Marcos, that 200-day moving average will act as that net. And so that's pretty strong. And I wouldn't expect us to break down from that 200-day moving average. So good call on that. Thank you for that confirmation there. Jay Barker says, good to see you back at it on the regular, Naeem. Well, yeah, I mean, I hope everyone appreciates it. Let's see where we're at with likes. 43 now, 44. Come on, we only got 4. Come on. Maybe not everyone appreciates me as much as Jay Barker, but at least we got Jay Barker 797 on the stream here on YouTube. And that's all that matters. The Cato says, great as usual. Thank you so much. Let's see what else we have here in terms of questions. Let's see here. JRM says, would it be a good idea to temporarily transfer one's funds from Tron to ETH? Well, interesting. Let's go ahead and pull up Tron's technical analysis. Do a quick analysis here, see what we've got. So we formed this top. We went ahead, formed a double, actually a triple top. Saw that drop right down to that 50-day moving average. Now we're seeing some support along that 50-day moving average. So this is a very interesting chart, in my opinion. What we've got here is a rounding bottom. This is an interesting chart here. So if you guys don't know what a rounding bottom is, let me show you. So it's really the only difference between a rounding bottom and a cup and handle. And a rounding bottom is also a breakout pattern, by the way. But the difference is instead of seeing a breakout and then a cup forming, the cup forms during a downtrend. And so what you'll see is an initial increase in buyer volume at one point of that cup that causes a resistance level, and that formation of the cup will then find resistance back around that level. And so if you guys want a better understanding of how that looks, I'll pull up our Discord here. So the rounding bottom pretty much looks like this. The difference between the cup and handle is with the rounding bottom, you're coming from a descent, right? With the cup and handle, it's very similar, but the only difference is you're not coming from a descent, you're coming from an uptrend. And you can also assume that this is a cup and handle because we do have this ascent here before this descent, but this resistance didn't go high enough to confirm that that top resistance here. So the resistance is really right around this level right now. And then this cup formation, if it were to be a handle to determine potential upside in the future, would have found resistance exactly where it's finding resistance now. Why? Well, you've got the 50-day moving average, you've got consolidation here, you've got consolidation here, you've got this acting as a potential or a previous support level, and then you've got this touching as resistance. So previous resistance turns into future support, and then you can see here, same thing, turns into support. It was also resistance. Now it's finding support, and that 50-day moving average went ahead and caught right back up to this graph. And so very interesting chart here. Looking at the MACD, you can see with the buyer, the sellers, very, very, very high seller pressure right now. And so I would want to go ahead and insert a different indicator here because this might turn into a possible trade. Let's take a look at what we've got going on here. Let's remove this MACD, pull up what we've got here with the RSI. And so with the RSI here, what we're looking for is that 40 and 60 mark, right? So we've got 40 here. We pretty much almost came down to that before seeing any sort of a bounce. And then we've got 60 here, right? Those are the two levels we want to watch. And so we've got 60 here. We've got 40 down there. You can see 60 has acted as a resistance once, twice, multiple times here, and somewhat here. It's also acted as a support because, once again, the same fundamental rules apply to this that applies to the price action, which is previous resistance will turn into previous support. And so we're down here. We haven't yet touched 40. And so with the MACD, what we saw with the MACD was we still had all those sellers, right? But at the end of the day, you can see we saw price action to the upside because of that 50-day support. But then there's no buyer volume. So what I'd be watching right now is, number one, we want to see buyer volume before calling a breakout here. So what I would do is I would actually go ahead before entering a position here. I would set the entry point a little bit higher than this resistance. So I would pretty much probably, since we found a little bit of resistance here, but this isn't really a strong resistance level because it's only touched once, twice really. But I would still assume that if we were to go ahead and start crossing that 765 Satoshi mark and starting to go back towards that resistance to test it for a third time, that could possibly be a breakout move there for Tron, for us to break out of this rounding bottom pattern and then to see some further upside, because this could have very much have been just a healthy correction to that 50-day moving average. And so very, very interesting chart here. I'd be watching the RSI. I think this is something we'll definitely keep in our live streams over the next few days. Just make sure to remind me, guys, if you guys are on watching our live stream so that we can keep taking a look at Tron here. JRM says, thank you very much, sir. Max says, you're definitely appreciated over here. Thank you so much, guys. Great day says, check out LTC2, please. Let's pull up Litecoin, see what we've got going on with Litecoin. Asim says, BTT resistance level. Yeah. We'll definitely be seeing that downside sometime soon. So over here, interesting chart, already overbought here. I'm not going to go into this analysis too much because it's pretty boring. We've already been overbought. We already saw the upside. And now what I'd be looking for is a correction because obviously we hit this resistance level here. And so I'd be waiting a little bit. Now, is this a rounding bottom? You know, this could very much also be a rounding bottom. You know, what you're seeing here is almost like a Tron chart, but a more premature chart, right? You can see this 50-day moving average in red and green. They are just starting to curve up. We're just starting to see buyer volume come in. If you look at Tron, BTC, what we just looked at, that already happened, right? That curvature, it started here, and look what it did to the price action. And so this curvature is still on its way up. And then with LTC, we're just now starting to see that curvature. So this is also going to be one to watch. This definitely doesn't have anything exciting in terms of the now. You know, I wouldn't enter into a position right now just because we found that major resistance. We already saw this huge uptrend, and then we saw this RSI. But let's go ahead and just watch and see what's going to happen here. You know, the one thing I would say is if we were to consider this a rounding bottom, it could very much be so because we did find that descent, and then we did find some sort of consolidation here, some sort of uptrend. But, what I'd like to see with the rounding bottom is an increase in volume here at the initial resistance and then increase in volume here at the second resistance. And so you can see we found that volume in the second one. We didn't find it here in the first one. So let's continue to watch this and see where we can go from there. Sean says, LTC already pumped. I'm staying away from now. That's what I'm feeling like for Ripple as well. JK says, Ripple is for and then a bad word. That's not good. Marcus says, TRX, people sold after snapshot for BTT airdrop. Justin says he was a Valentine's Day surprise. Let's see the chart. Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a huge move for Tron to have the BTT token built on their platform. So if you guys haven't already liked the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you guys aren't already subscribed, we do these live streams almost daily. We're at 110 viewers, but half of the likes. Come on, guys. So I'm super excited to get on the Discord, post more trades. Any other questions before we wrap this baby up? John says Ethereum. We definitely covered Ethereum already pretty extensively. Marcus says, bought some XRP a couple days ago, so you can blame me for the drop. All right, everyone, blame Marcos for the drop. Everybody in the chat say, screw you, Marcos. Say it right now. Marcus Hanshaw. Everybody say, screw you, Marcus, for dropping Ripple. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you guys. Famous says, thoughts on Quadriga CEO passing away. If you're referring to that exchange that was at about they were managing about $180 million worth of crypto assets, and then the guy died. If you're talking about that story, I think that's complete BS. I don't know if you guys watched that live stream, but we had a live stream a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about this individual who he had a $180 million exchange, right? And some crazy stuff happened where you went to India for some some sort of charity or giving practice or whatever, and apparently he died in India, and and then his death certificate was from some Indian doctor and stuff. And apparently he was the only one to have the password to all of the coins and in the wallet. And now those coins, $180 million, are lost. The reason that story sketched me out and why I think it's complete BS is, number one, who just goes to India out of nowhere and just wants to start giving back out of nowhere, right? I think that's a really good thing to do if you're trying to set up a story and set up yourself as an innocent person trying to exit or trying to run away with money, right? And so, just the way the whole thing was laid out, I think it was all complete BS. I think it was a scam. That's just my opinion on it. I mean, that's my humble but accurate opinion. Dan says, yep, I had money in there. It's gone. Sorry, man. And that's the thing with this market. With the dot-com bubble back in, 2000 and 2001 and even in the 1990s, late 90s, there were a lot of security issues. That was the biggest thing. There were a lot of breaches, a lot of hacks. And it's the same thing for any new technology. So you had to just give this market a little bit of grace before you assume that you're going to lose faith or hope in this market, like that guy in our last live stream yesterday said. Quinn says, looking pretty good, starting to curve up. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. JRM says, Marcus. Mr. Shaw says, thanks, Marcus. I guess they were shorting it, so that's good. So is it a great idea to short Litecoin right now? I wouldn't say so, because if this is a rounding bottom pattern, this is what's going to happen. So what we'll see is very similar to the cup and handle. We'll see that downside temporarily, and it'll form a handle where we found previous resistance, and then it'll eventually break out. And so I'd be a little bit careful with where you short, because this could very much be the handle. If it were to drop below this support level, then our next support would really be around that 9,900, right around 10,000 Satoshi mark. I'm sorry, that's 1 million Satoshi, so that'd be 99,000 Satoshi mark. And so I wouldn't be shorting this right now. I'd stay a little bit away from Litecoin just because of where it's at, and it's in a transitional phase right now. So Great Day says, bought my XRP bags. Well, based on the death cross, I don't know if that's a good idea. Mike says, that's why you hold out your own keys. Interesting. Dan says, so lucky it was only a vessel to other exchange. Yes, good. Bitcoin says, is there any exchanges you like in the U.S. with high leverage? I would say the only one and the best one for the U.S. is Kraken. And obviously, you've got BitMEX, you've got OKX and stuff. If you're not in the US or if you're using a VPN, you can have access to that. But let's not go there. So other than that, guys, I will see you all in the Discord. Make sure to like this video if you haven't already. Thank you all for being on the live stream. And maybe if you guys want to say something in the live stream before we go, I'll give a couple shout outs here. Maybe if we have any interesting comments or questions too, we can have another little quick discussion before I go. Sean says XLM is due for a pump soon. Let's see here. Pull up XLM. Ooh, very interesting chart. So look at that. Man, quite brutal here. So we are completely oversold here with XLM. Interesting. You know, the fundamentals of XLM is what's causing this. You know, I think the issue with Stellar is the fact that Brad Gardinghouse, Dan Larimer, you know, the lead developer of Stellar, who also is the lead developer for EOS, who's also one of the developers for Steemit, who's also one of the developers. Like, I can go on and on, right? Yeah, I think he's working on too many projects. That's just the truth of the nature. You know, I guarantee we'll see something similar to his other project, EOS, right? Look at that. No, not as much. You know, I mean, kind of, though. This isn't good. RSI's at overbought, but price level is still at a lower resistance. It's not a good thing. So, you know, I would say be a little bit careful with XLM right now because, you know, there's really, you know, yes, we're consolidating. And just based on what we're seeing in this graph, maybe we can pull up a Bittrex graph to have a little bit more data since it's been on that exchange longer. You know, let's see what we've got here. This is an interesting chart. We broke down major support. You know, we've got this area here where we found consolidation. We found support and resistance along that area. I think that you got to be really careful with Stellar right now. You know, this isn't strong support and resistance at all. And the reason I say that is because we've only really consolidated here twice. And this has been such a transition area for Stellar that this could very well continue to see more and more price action to the downside. You know, one thing with the RSI is, yes, this shows oversold, but at the end of the day, when it's doing this and it's just staying under 30, this becomes abnormal activity. And abnormal activity with indicators causes abnormal activity with price action. And so you don't want that abnormal activity to cut your short and for us to see, you know, I mean, you just got to be careful here because you can see RSI was oversold here, but we still continue down. And so even with it still being there, we could still continue down. So I'd be very careful. So let's just continue to watch this and go from there. Product says going lower. Mark says, thanks, man. You're very welcome. Thank you, guys. Product says, all I hear is nonsense. Well, you can get the hell out of this stream, buddy. We don't need you here. Marco says, store your coins on Monarch. You hold your own keys and earn interest even for the XRP fanboys. I highly recommend. I'm actually an advisor to Monarch, if you guys didn't know. I advise, you know, over half a dozen blockchain companies. Monarch is one of them. One of my good friends, Snay, and his buddy, Beatles. They're the one. They're good buddies of mine. Good buddies of mine as well. They started that. You know, I know a lot of the people in the you know, last year I took a little bit of time off from YouTube and I traveled and spoke all around the world. Met, you know, some of the largest you know, guys that you guys know of, like, you know, and they've become personal friends of mine, like Nicholas Merton from Data Dash. He's a good friend of mine. You know, Crypto Capital Venture, if you guys have watched him, he's a good friend of mine. Crypto Beatles, obviously I advise his company. And you know, we can go on and on, but we've got a mastermind coming up March 2nd, 2019. If you guys are not following me on Instagram, Instagram is to the right here. If you guys go to that little box, it says @Naeem. Definitely follow me. I'll post all of my updates there. Hassan says, glad to see you're back at it, Naeem. Where have you been hiding all this time? Shorting BTC? Well, I mean, if you're part of our Discord group, then you would have been getting all of our short calls when we were shorting BTC. But right now, we don't need to do that. I mean, you know, like, we've got all of this action with these altcoins. If you guys didn't already see, like, you know, we had every single day we're sending out alerts. You can see our members, wow, right on target. Nice call. You know, this was a call we made. Rep, entry, 3,700. Take profit, 40.50. Guess what happened? Entry right there, 30.50. Guess where it went? Literally at 40.50. I mean, You know, like, and that was in a 2-day time frame. You know, it's not like, you know, we send an alert and then it just goes up after 5 minutes. You know, it used to be like that, but you know, we're improving, and so that's a 2-day alert. Look at these two alerts right here. USD JPY, Euro USD. Here's number one. Bam, entry was there, exit was there, entry was here, short, exit was there. You know, here's another one. This was today. US 30 long. Look, 25.50 entry, profit, done deal. And so if you guys are not getting our alerts, link is in the description below. Highly recommend that. Faisal says, if I lost my ledger, how can I back it up? You got to back it up before you lose it, buddy. I'm sorry to break it down to you, brother. Marvin says, Litecoin seems nice even at this price. Interesting. Mark says, I don't think Larimer has anything to do with Stellar, as Mark was mentioned. Yeah, I mean, Jed McCaleb is the founder of Stellar. Yeah, I mean, no, Larimer, he does have, he's worked on multiple projects, but, you know, a lot of these developers don't even work on these projects at all anymore. You know, even Jed McCaleb, you know, they've got teams working on these projects, and a lot of them have started multiple projects. And so, you know, it's kind of a mess there, in my opinion. We're not really seeing as much development. I mean, we're seeing more action with Tron than we're seeing with EOS, right? You guys agree with me or not? You guys see EOS or Tron more in the headlines? Say I if you see Tron. Like the video if you guys see Tron in the headlines more than you see Stellar or EOS, right? I don't think there's, for some reason, not doing a good job. You know, when you have too many products and companies, you spread yourself too thin. You know, Sean says, you the man. You know, even Jed McCaleb, you know, he was working with Ripple before he forked it and started Stellar. And so, like, he was already on Ripple, and then he went to Stellar. And then, you know, but guess what? Who's actually making progress? You know, Ripple is, not Stellar. Now, at the end of the day, yeah, Stellar has a whole different philosophy. They want to unbank, you know, the bank the unbanked, and Ripple is taking a different approach, going straight to the banks. And so, yes, there's two options, but obviously Ripple's succeeding more than Stellar right now. Let's just say that. And so, yeah, great days. I'm saying Dan Larimer, he helped with the development. So I may have made a mistake saying he's a lead developer, but he definitely helped out. But none of that really matters at this point. Who founded it, who started it, because at this point, all these companies, they have other teams running it. And that's really what's going on. Dan says Tron. Bitcoin says I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bushido, Chris, Marcos, Dan, Natrabot, I can't read that, Clayton, the Cataly, everyone here on our live stream. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to like this video. I'm going to be heading out, and I'll see some of you guys in our Discord, and hopefully this video added some value to you guys. Love to hear your opinions in the comments after the video is published. So thank you guys. Make sure to like this video before you go, and I am out.